Well, folks, today we are going to be taking a look at the 2028 presidential election between Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis versus New York Congresswoman AOC. Now, this is a battle between a conservative in DeSantis, results-driven, results-oriented governor, and AOC's progressive, really radical overhaul of society, which are two extremely different paths from each other. And we're going to look at why DeSantis not only has the upper edge, but why he must win this next election and why America desperately needs leadership like DeSantis. Now, in 2028, after years of economic ups and downs under the Trump administration and the Biden administration, now the Trump administration again, voters are craving a leader with a solid track record of delivering, not just inspiring speeches or tweets or calling someone else racist. But before we get into it, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. Now, here's the reality of the situation, folks, is as of right now, it is most likely, it is fair to say that J.D. Vance is the front runner to be the nominee in 2028 for the GOP. As of right now, it's safe to say it is his nomination if he wants it. He's still going to have to work for it. He's still going to have to compete. But ultimately, this is most likely his if he wants it. From all data that we have, polling shows Vance leading by 20, 30 points in really almost every primary matchup. But by 2028, DeSantis will have retired, or I guess should say, was unable to run for the governor's mansion again in 2026. And he'll have 8 years as the governor of one of the biggest states in America under his belt. Now, which, given his track record, I think it's very safe to say that he has a strong track record. He is a proven executive, not just a talker. He cut taxes in Florida, slashed regulations, and turned Florida into an economic powerhouse. Like, I don't really think there's another way you can put it besides saying it's an economic powerhouse. Think about what happened during COVID. DeSantis stood. He was the one standing in the wind. The wind was blowing the opposite direction, and he was not going with the wind. He stood against the COVID lockdowns in 2020 and beyond. While blue states shuttered their schools, closed their businesses, closed their economies, tanked their economies, while DeSantis kept Florida open. They prioritized freedom and common sense in the state, something that it seems like a lot of people, especially on the left side of the aisle, lack these days. Common sense. They don't have common sense when it comes to immigration, fiscal responsibilities, transgender rights. They do not have common sense. In the result of Governor DeSantis' work, people flocked to Florida and its economy boomed. It's like hundreds of thousands of people are moving to Florida every single year. Hundreds of thousands of people are moving there. It has gone from a purple state that DeSantis won by 30,000 votes to a red state that DeSantis won by 1.5 million votes in his re-election campaign. And this is the type of leadership that conservatives not only need, but can trust. Trust is a big thing. We need to make sure we can trust our politicians, which is kind of a lot because I don't think you can ever trust any of them fully. But if we're looking at who's out there, I'm taking DeSantis' side over someone, a radical like AOC, a crazy nut job. And on cultural issues, DeSantis is fearless. This guy was banning critical race theory before it was popular in schools. He protected parental rights during the COVID pandemic and stood up to woke corporations like Disney when they overstepped their bounds and really lied. It's like they're liars. That's what they are. And by 28, he's going to have a national platform to take that to Washington. Now, something that we should all talk about. DeSantis ran for president in 2024. And I think it's very safe to say that it hurt DeSantis in the long run by running in 24. It really, in my opinion, it really hurt him in his standing within the Republican Party. I really think it was a mistake. Hindsight's 2020, but ultimately I do believe that it was a mistake. Running against Trump when you knew he was going to run, we knew what Trump was up to, we knew what he wanted to do, and Americans, apparently Republican voters, were not done with Donald Trump yet. Now, on the good side for DeSantis, he still has roughly $9 million in cash left over from his first campaign. So if he's looking to launch a 2028 campaign, he has cash in the bank right now. It's like he has cash to get started, and, he's already trying to broaden his appeal, especially with people in Florida. Again, really encouraging his wife to run. That's something we're going to try and get a video covered on here soon. But his wife potentially jumping in that race. Now, Trump already endorsed Byron Donalds in that race. But, Casey DeSantis has polled pretty well, and her favorability has looked very, very well. So we're going to see ultimately what happens. But here's the thing. DeSantis isn't just Trump 2.0. DeSantis is Trump 2.0, but he's sharper. He's more disciplined, he's younger, and he doesn't carry a lot of that baggage that Trump does. Now, granted, I think there's a lot of voters who like Trump because of the baggage he carries. It shows authenticity. But ultimately, DeSantis is not carrying that baggage. Will not be an issue for him. There's a lot of people from the Republican Party that Donald Trump alienated, that he was able to win back in 24. There is a lot of extremely liberal people who just looked at what Biden did to the country and were like, I just can't vote for this again. Obviously, Trump was able to bring people back into his fold, but there is a big group of anti-never-Trumpers that are never going to support Trump under. It's like you could have Trump versus Mussolini or Hitler, and Trump would probably, and some of these never-Trumpers would probably still vote against Trump. But the reality is for DeSantis is he is a big part of the future of the GOP. And he wasn't a senator. He was a congressman, but he's a congressman. But then he became an executive. It is very different being, a congressman when you're one of 435 versus when you're a governor and you lead a branch of your government. You are not one of 435 people that run a portion of the government. It's like there is, being the guy at the top, there is experience that comes with that will be very beneficial, especially when it comes to how do you set up an administration. What Trump is doing now when it comes to really gutting the deep state, gutting the bureaucracy. This is what DeSantis did back in 2018. DeSantis got into power in Florida and he gutted the state bureaucracy, appointed DeSantis-friendly nominees and appointees to these positions to make sure that he had allies. So when the governor would sign an executive action, that it was implemented by the people. And that is what Trump has been doing too. Clearly. But no doubt DeSantis is the future of the GOP. Now let's talk about AOC. The wonderful AOC, who really you can say is the de facto leader to take over the spot of Bernie Sanders. Bernie has already come out and said that it's unlikely that he will run for president again in 2028. And many progressives, they need this gap filled. That is what they need. Let's put it this way. Bernie Sanders has a very large and devoted base of supporters who does not want to run for president again. And really the big question is, who is going to lead this forward, this network of grassroots support, which granted, I don't agree with a lot of what they espouse, but ultimately you can recognize it as a grassroots movement. Can AOC take that over? It's like she'll be 39 in 2028, just old enough to run for president. And she really is the darling of the progressive left, which she's actually starting to lose her sparkle because, the hot new thing, Jasmine Crockett talking about Governor Hot Wheels in Florida is out there. We used to look for AOC during like 2018, 2019, 2020 to say the dumbest, most ratchet things you've ever heard. And then you hear this wonderful congresswoman from Texas, Jasmine Crockett, just espouse some of the most insane things you've ever heard before. And when it comes to AOC, there's no doubt that she has the charisma. She has that. There's no question about it. The media following. She has the following. She has the charisma. She has the oomph in her step. But peel back that hype. Like you take a look at it. Let's peel back the layers of this. And what is actually in there at the core? It's a lot of noise and really no substance. That's what's at the core of AOC. Her record in Congress, she pushed radical pie-in-the-sky ideas like the Green New Scam, where she wanted to spend trillions in spending with zero consideration for how they're going to pay for it. It's funny. I actually, I wonder if I'm going to try and get this pulled up here real quick. But there was, yesterday, I saw someone else from the squad. I forget what her name is. Like Anaya Presley or something like that. It was on the Ben Shapiro show yesterday. He was talking about it. But just some of the dumbest things you've heard where they were really aiming for like $10 trillion in spending. She had given an interview. She was like, she wanted like $10 trillion in climate change spending. But then it went down to 6, and then it went down to 5, 4, 3, 2, then 1.7 is where they ended up settling on with the Inflation Reduction Act, which we all know, and Biden even admitted it, that was really just a climate thing. I can't find the video, but if you watch the Ben Shapiro show from yesterday, it's either the 27th or the 26th or the 25th. I sometimes watch them out of order, but she was on there. It's like Shapiro had a clip on there, of her talking about how they wanted $10 trillion in the Green New Scam spending. And they had to settle at 1.7 trillion. It's like, do you understand that's almost like, that's over a third of our GDP that you want to spend on climate initiatives with no way to pay for it? We have $37 trillion in debt right now. It's like, this is ridiculous. Let's just do a real-time, okay, 36.649, okay, interesting. Doge clock is at almost $250 billion now. Interesting. Very, very interesting. But yes, the national debt, it is just ridiculous. And they want to add $10 trillion on here. On top of our federal budget is at $2 trillion right now. Okay, so you're going to add, that'd be over a 10-year period. You're basically increasing the deficit on a yearly basis by 50% what our budget deficit is. It's just ridiculous. AOC also wants free college for everyone, Medicare for all, you name it. She wants government to have their hands in every pot. She wants the government to foot the bill. Well, we're just going to tax the rich. It's okay, we'll just make the rich pay their fair share. This is the reality. This is socialism dressed up as compassionate. And it's not going to work. It hasn't worked. Everywhere it's been tried, it doesn't work. They implement it, and then they start to repeal. It's like, they talk about, Social Security. Hey, do you want to get rid of Social Security? Yes, I do want to get rid of Social Security because it's a freaking Ponzi scheme. All actions have an equal and opposite reaction. When Social Security was started, the people who paid into Social Security the people who received the first benefits from Social Security never paid in to Social Security. So by the laws of nature, there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction on the back end where there are going to be people like myself who pay into Social Security who are never going to get anything out of it. It is a Ponzi scheme. There is no pot. There is no investment fund. The money that's paid in from payroll taxes today is what pays benefits now. It's a Ponzi scheme. It is no different than Bernie Madoff and what he did, except it's owned by the government, and then the government just takes out debt, and that's how they bankroll this. It's like Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. It is ridiculous. It was in theory, is it a good idea? How it was implemented was horrid. Because I have to worry about, I have to, have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars taken out of my paycheck every year to pay Social Security, that when I know I'm most likely never going to get any of that money back. And even if I could keep half of that money and put it into the S&P 500, put it into the stock market and hold it till I retire, I would have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. But here's the thing. The politicians don't want that. They want the slush fund. They like big slush funds of cash so they can do what they want with it. They don't want us to have control. They don't. And it's horrible. These radical socialist utopian policies are destructive to America. If you want to retire, you need to make the proper choices and save for yourself. But we know that's never going to happen, and Social Security's become insolvent, and who knows? They probably won't do anything till 6 months before it's, Social Security's going to have to reduce benefits by 30%. But back to AOC. She is a loudmouth when it comes to climate change, but ignores the practical and pragmatic solutions like nuclear energy. Things that aren't going to take the economy. And that's why I say I think these Democrats are more interested in tanking the economy than actually solving the issues that they claim to care about. Because if they cared about clean energy, they wouldn't be harassing the United States. They'd be harassing China. They'd be harassing India. They'd be harassing Russia. They'd be embracing things like nuclear. They'd embrace things like LNG. They'd embrace things like natural gas or gasoline or oil because it's better than coal. It 100% is. And plus, it doesn't matter what we do in our country. If China just dumps waste in the sea, and they pollute, our economy is one of the most green economies on the planet. We've continued, it's like when it comes to the goals that we've set to reduce emissions, we are on track. But here's the reality. It doesn't matter what we do because it matters what China does. It matters what India does. It matters what all these other countries do. So why don't we come up with practical and pragmatic solutions? But nope. Instead, she just likes to call conservatives racist and the fact that we're oppressors. She sees the world in a very binary sense. There are people who are oppressed and oppressors, which alienates half the country before she even starts, which that's why I think it would be horrible for her if she ran in 2028. And the reality is she's a congresswoman, not a governor. She's never run for anything bigger than her Twitter account. And by 2028, yes, does she have a huge following on social media? Absolutely. But she's untested where it counts. She's untested in a primary. She's untested on a debate stage. She's untested when a campaign is falling apart and what do you do? She's untested in a general election. She is untested, which sometimes can be okay. Obviously, look what Trump did. He was untested. But I think I'll take Trump's competence over AOC's times 10 any day of the week. But it's good. But a big part of elections isn't just culture wars or sometimes these fringe issues that they espouse. It is things like the economy, border security, culture wars, energy, inflation. When it comes to the economy, DeSantis will be able to run on jobs and growth. The amount of growth that occurred in the Florida economy. The amount of jobs that were created. Florida's unemployment was below the national average for many years while he was governor. And he also will promise increase. It's like right now they're going through the reconciliation process so they can extend the Trump's tax cuts, make some of it permanent, do all of that. So it's most likely going to either go for a 4 or 8 year period until it needs to be renewed again, some of these tax cuts. So Governor DeSantis will, if he becomes president, will have to come in and cut taxes, enact, work with Congress to get these Trump tax cuts on the books even further and continue. I believe Donald Trump will continue to deregulate our economy, which will unlock American exceptionalism. And DeSantis will continue on that path of deregulation. Get the government out of the way. It is there to do a few big things. That's it. Well, AOC will push for massive spending. Think trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars a year in debt that she wants to rack up, ballooning the national deficit even more than it is right now. And us as conservatives know that this is a recipe for inflation and stagnation, or better known as stagflation. Voters care about border security. DeSantis has taken huge steps on border security, sending troops from Florida to the Texas border, cracking down on illegal immigration in Florida. And he's already said it will be a national priority for strong borders. A strong borders equals a strong nation. That is one of the few things the federal government should be doing. Maintaining our borders. Maintaining strong borders, which maintains a strong nation. Meanwhile, AOC is calling for abolishing ICE and decriminalizing border crossings. It's like, wow. And that's the open borders by another name, and Americans really do not buy into it. And it's kind of funny, because this is something from the New York Times here. But now, as Democrats find their legal and fundraising institutions under attack from the Trump administration, their base voters are furious at their congressional leadership and their party's popularity at generational lows. Progressives are also starting to down the prospect of a are staring down the prospect of a post-Bernie future. The reality is that Democrats want to see them fighting Republicans and Trump at every step of the way. That's what the Democrats want. The Democrat base wants to fight Trump at every turn during his presidency. That's what they want. They want to fight him at every turn, and including immigration, which isn't going to be good for them. Trump is more popular on immigration. His policies are much, mass deportation, securing our southern border with troops, building a wall, increasing defense spending for our southern border. So are the Democrats going to shoot themselves in the foot there too and try and abolish ICE and decriminalize border crossings, because that's a recipe to lose an election, because Americans aren't going to buy into that. They're just not. And as far as DeSantis, he is going to double down on protecting kids from indoctrination. He was protecting kids and securing parental rights before it was popular. You know, you think some of these parental rights bills, like what they've done in Virginia, scaled up. Well, AOC is all in on woke policies of gender ideology in schools, defunding the police, getting police officers out of schools, canceling anyone who disagrees with her on this. And hopefully by 2028, we could see the pendulum in 26 swing a little bit towards the Democrats. But let's hope it comes back by 28 and swings and just smashes them in 2028. It'll swing back because voters are tired of this nonsense BS. And the last thing is energy. DeSantis supports American oil and gas companies and the energy independence that will keep prices low and jobs here. That's the reality. If you don't, so just let's use a quick example real quick. If you have, let's talk about energy. How, Trump needs to bring down the cost of goods. Why is energy such a big factor for that? Well, let's just take, for example, a gallon of milk and what the price is. Let's say I think the gallon of milk right now is about $2.80 at Aldi right now, where I'm at. If Trump is able to lower energy prices, he will directly be able to lower the cost of most goods that are in a grocery store. And I'm going to explain to you what. And we're going to use milk as an example. Milk. It comes from a cow. And that cow is at a farm, most likely with a lot of cows. Most of the time now, cows are not milked by hand. They are milked using some type of machine. That machine requires energy in order to run. So that's an input cost. Then to take that milk that comes out of the cow and then to turn it into either skim milk, 1%, 2%, whole milk, maybe it turns into butter, maybe it turns into cheese, whatever its end product is, it takes energy, whether it's cooling systems, whether it's the actual mechanical processes. And then once those processes are done, it takes a machine that requires energy to bottle all the milk. After it's bottled, it needs to be put on a truck that is refrigerated. The refrigeration requires energy. The vehicle requires energy to get to the grocery store. Once it gets to the grocery store, it costs energy. It takes energy as an input to refrigerate that gallon of milk until someone purchases it. So if Trump is able to lower energy cost for Americans, it will directly lower costs on most prices in the grocery store. Because these are direct input costs that we see in the process of selling goods and services. It's like this is just a reality of the situation. If Trump is able to lower energy costs, he will be able to lower prices across the board. While AOC and her Green New scam want to kill fossil fuels overnight, which will spike energy costs and leave the United States reliant on oil from Russia and China and India and Canada. And Canada I'm halfway okay with because we actually have a halfway decent deal on oil with them. Where we're able to, through the Dakotas, we bring in a lot of their oil at a negotiated lower rate that has to get refined in the States and then is sold for a really handsome profit. But we as conservatives and people of common sense see through this. We 100% see through this. Because good luck, AOC, convincing the people in Pennsylvania that we need to ban fracking. Good luck convincing them that. Good luck convincing the people in Michigan that we need to get rid of fracking. Good luck. That's all I got to say to you. Best of luck to you, my friend. But here's the bottom line. DeSantis will win this race because he's not a doer, or he's a doer, not a dreamer. DeSantis has experience, 8 years running a state with over 20 million people. AOC's got 6 years in Congress of grandstanding and tweeting, and that's about it. And let's be honest, AOC, the presidency isn't an entry-level job. I know you jump from bartender to congresswoman real quick, but the jump is a lot harder from congresswoman to president. And electability matters. That's the reality. Ron DeSantis crushed it in Florida's 2022 midterms, winning moderates and even Democrats and independents by very healthy margins. Not winning Democrats by winning Democrat support by a very healthy margin relative to other Republicans in the state. And AOC, she is way too far left. Polls are already showing that independents distrust her on her socialist utopian ideas. And in a general election, she would tank outside of the deep blue bubbles. Places like California, good luck. It's like, you probably win it. California, Oregon, New York, Illinois, Virginia. But here's the reality. Look at this. Let's look at a 2024 presidential election map. Harris did terrible in a lot of these states. Terrible, I mean. It's like New York, she only won by 12 points when Democrats should be winning here by 20 points. She only won California by 20 points when Democrats should be winning by 30, 35 points there. Good luck if you continue going to the left. Good luck. The country as a whole shifted to the right hugely, because they totally rejected these policies that are promoted by the Democrats. And polls are showing that AOC would be screwed. And by 2028, Trump's shadow, it's like Trump will still be the head of the Republican Party. DeSantis can, at that point, unite the GOP base, swing voters with a clear conservative vision for the future. Meanwhile, AOC will energize progressives, but she's going to scare off anyone for independents and conservatives because the math just does not work for her. Conservatives will rally behind DeSantis because he will deliver what Americans value: limited government, personal freedom, and a strong America. This is not just a race. It is a referendum on the soul of America. We must choose proven leadership. And if this race were held today, DeSantis and AOC, this is how I see it going. Pennsylvania, by over 5 points, it will go to DeSantis. Michigan, I see it as well, 5 points to DeSantis. I see it below 5 points, but still going to DeSantis in Wisconsin. When it comes to Nevada, I also see this as a +5 seat. Arizona, I see it the same way. North Carolina, I'm going to put this on less. I think Trump's going to win it, DeSantis will win it, but less than what it was before. And then as far as Georgia, I believe DeSantis would win it by a comfortable margin. They like Republicans like DeSantis in Georgia. And then for the surprise, New Hampshire. I think New Hampshire will 100% be in play. 100% be in play, especially if you have someone like Chris Sununu, who really is bucking for the party there. I can see it being a less than 5 percentage point win for the GOP. But someplace I think it could get tight. I think Minnesota could get tight. I think Illinois will shift. I think all of these states would shift to the middle. I don't think they're going to be flipped. I think anything Virginia might shift a little more to the middle. But this is how I would see. And you know what? California will still be dark blue, and so will New York. Well, you know what? No, we'll do it one down, and Illinois will stay the same. But this is where I'm at right now, folks. AOC, Ron DeSantis, 2028. There is no question. It is no contest. DeSantis doesn't just win. He will restore the faith in what our country can do. We can be free, prosperous, and proud Americans. It is great that we can be proud to be Americans. It is just so great. So that's going to wrap things up for today, folks. We will catch you next time. Drop down below, hit that subscribe button.